I remember the exact moment my world shattered. It was a Tuesday afternoon, ordinary in every sense, until Ethan, my 10-year-old son, dropped the bombshell. "Mom, I locked the basement door," he said, his voice innocent, unaware of the chaos he had just unleashed. My heart skipped a beat. The basement, Nathan's sanctuary, the place he retreated to every evening, claiming he needed time for his woodworking projects. But today, he wasn't alone. Today, my sister Rachel, the golden child in our family, the one who could do no wrong, was with him. They thought they were clever, sneaking around while I was supposed to be out with Ethan. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. My name is Claire Montgomery. At 32, I thought I had my life figured out. A stable marriage to Nathan, my college sweetheart, a beautiful home in the suburbs, and our son, Ethan. I had always wanted a bigger family, but life and my relationship with Rachel had made me reconsider. Growing up, it was always Rachel this, Rachel that. Our parents doted on her, ignoring my achievements, my struggles. I never wanted Ethan to feel that kind of neglect, that sting of favoritism. As I stood there processing Ethan's words, a storm brewed inside me. Rage, betrayal, disbelief, they swirled in my head, each emotion more overpowering than the last. Nathan and Rachel? It was like a sick joke, a plot twist in a trashy novel. I needed to see it for myself. I needed to confront them. But as I moved towards the basement door, I stopped. No, they didn't deserve the satisfaction of seeing me break. They didn't deserve my tears, my anger. In that moment, a cold, hard resolve settled over me. Let them stay there, locked in their den of deceit. Let them wonder, panic even, when I didn't come to their rescue. Ethan's voice snapped me out of my reverie. "Mom, are you okay?" I forced a smile, my heart aching for my innocent child, caught in the middle of this sordid affair. "Yes, honey. I just remembered we have that picnic today, remember? Just the two of us." His face lit up and guilt gnawed at me. I was about to drag my child into my plan for revenge, but it was too late to turn back now. "Let's get going," I said, my voice steady. As we drove away from the house, I couldn't help but glance at the rearview mirror, half expecting Nathan or Rachel to come running out, calling for us to stop. But there was nothing. Just the quiet suburban street, basking in the afternoon sun, oblivious to the drama unfolding in my home. The picnic was a blur. Ethan chattered about school, his friends, the new video game he wanted. I nodded and smiled, but my thoughts were elsewhere, on the betrayal that had uprooted my life. As we laid out our spread on the grassy field, Ethan's laughter ringing in my ears, a part of me wondered if I was doing the right thing. But then I remembered their laughter, their whispers, the way they thought they could make a fool out of me. No, this was just the beginning. Rachel and Nathan had crossed a line, and there was no going back. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I made a silent vow. I would make them pay. They would regret the day they underestimated Claire Montgomery. The next morning dawned with an air of pretense, as if the sun itself was trying to brush off the darkness of the previous night. I had barely slept, my mind replaying the scenario over and over again. Nathan and Rachel, locked in the basement, the secret they thought they had so cleverly hidden now laid bare. My phone buzzed incessantly with calls from Nathan. I watched it ring, feeling a twisted satisfaction in ignoring his desperate attempts to reach me. Let him stew in his guilt and fear. Ethan, oblivious to the storm brewing, munched on his cereal. "Is Dad still in the basement? He sure loves that place," he remarked innocently. I forced a smile, hiding the turmoil inside. "Yes, he's very busy with his projects," I lied smoothly. As Ethan left for school, I braced myself for what was to come. The confrontation was inevitable, but first, I needed answers. I needed to know how deep this betrayal ran. I dialed Rachel. She picked up on the first ring, her voice laced with panic. "Claire, oh my God, you won't believe what happened. Nathan and I got locked in the basement. It was so scary." Her feigned innocence fueled my anger. "Really, Rachel? How terrifying for you," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. She hesitated, sensing my mood. "Claire, I can explain. It's not what you think." "Oh, I think it's exactly what I think. How long, Rachel? How long have you been sneaking around with my husband?" There was silence on the other end. Then a soft sob. "It just happened, Claire. It wasn't planned, I swear." I laughed bitterly. "Just happened? You expect me to believe that? I'm not a fool, Rachel. she cried, now her sobs loud and unconvincing. Please, Claire, you have to believe me. It was a mistake. A mistake? No, Rachel. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk at the store. This is a choice to betray your own sister. I hope he was worth it. I hung up before she could reply, her sobs still echoing in my ear. I felt a rush of power, of control. For once, I was not the overlooked sister, the one left in the shadows. I was the one calling the shots. But my triumph was short-lived. The reality of what had happened, of what I had lost, began to sink in. Nathan and I had built a life together, a family, and now it was all crumbling down, like a house of cards in a gust of wind. I looked around the house at the photos on the walls, the memories we had created. They now felt like a mockery, a cruel joke. I had been living a lie, and the truth was a bitter pill to swallow. But swallow it, I must. There was no going back now. Nathan and Rachel had made their choice, and I had made mine. The path ahead was unclear, fraught with pain and uncertainty. But one thing was certain. I would not be the victim in this sordid tale. I would write my own ending, and it would be one of triumph, not defeat. As I gathered the photos, tearing them from their frames, a plan began to form in my mind. Rachel and Nathan had taken everything from me. It was time to return the favor. The day unfolded with a deceptive calm, the normalcy of my routine clashing with the turmoil within. But beneath the surface, my mind was a whirlwind of plotting and planning. Today was the day I'd set my revenge in motion. I had arranged for Ethan to spend the weekend at a friend's house. He deserved a break from the tense atmosphere at home, and I needed space to enact my plan without his innocent eyes watching. I called Tyler, Rachel's son from her first marriage, and invited him over. Tyler, a quiet 15-year-old, had always been close to Ethan, more like a brother than a cousin. There was a maturity in him, a certain depth that came from dealing with Rachel's antics all his life. "Hey, Aunt Claire," Tyler greeted me, a hint of uncertainty in his voice. "Is everything okay?" I sighed. "Tyler, I need to talk to you. It's about your mom and Nathan." His expression hardened slightly. "I'm not surprised," he said, a note of bitterness creeping into his voice. "Mom's always been like this." I was taken aback by his candidness. "You know?" He nodded. "I've seen her do this before, with my stepdad. She thinks nobody knows, but I've seen enough." His words confirmed my worst fears, and I felt a wave of sympathy for the boy. "I'm planning something, Tyler. A picnic this weekend. I need your help." Tyler's eyes narrowed, understanding dawning. "You want to leave them alone at the house," he surmised. "Yes," I admitted. "I want them to be exposed for everyone to see them for who they really are." "I'm in," Tyler said without hesitation. His loyalty to me over his own mother was both heartwarming and heartbreaking. The weekend arrived, and everything was set. The picnic was a ruse, a way to get everyone out of the house except Nathan and Rachel. I made sure they knew about it, dropping hints about how I'd be out the whole day, the house empty. As we left for the picnic, I saw Rachel's car pull into the driveway. My heart raced with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. This was it, the point of no return. Tyler was unusually quiet during the drive. As we set up our picnic spot, I noticed him staring into the distance, lost in thought. "You okay, Tyler?" I asked gently. He turned to me, his eyes filled with a mixture of anger and sadness. I can't believe she's doing this again. To you, Aunt Claire." I reached out, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this." He shook his head. "I'm not sorry. I'm glad I can help expose her. Maybe then she'll realize." His voice trailed off, but I understood. Tyler, like me, was seeking closure, a way to deal with the betrayal that had upended our lives. As the day wore on, I found myself checking my phone constantly, waiting for the call or message that would signal the unraveling of Nathan and Rachel's deceit. But nothing came. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows on the ground, Tyler spoke up. "Do you think it worked?" I nodded, a grim sense of satisfaction settling in. "Oh, it worked. Tomorrow, their little secret won't be so secret anymore." And with that, we packed up, leaving the serenity of the picnic spot behind. I was ready to face the consequences of my actions, ready to watch as the lives of those who had wronged me came crashing down. The following morning, I woke up to a sense of eerie calmness, the kind that often precedes a storm. Today was the day everything would come to light. Today, Nathan and Rachel's deceit would be exposed for all to see. I drove back home, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and dread. As I approached the house, I saw Rachel's car still parked in the driveway. A sly smile crept across my face. They had taken the bait. I entered the house, the silence greeting me like an old friend. No sign of Nathan or Rachel upstairs. I made my way to the basement door, my steps deliberate. The moment of truth was upon us. As I opened the door, the scene that unfolded before me was more satisfying than I had dared to hope. There they were, Rachel and Nathan, disheveled and frantic, realizing their secret rendezvous had turned into a humiliating trap. "Claire!" Rachel exclaimed, her voice a mix of surprise and fear. "Oh my God, we were locked in here. It was an accident!" Nathan stood there, silent, his eyes avoiding mine. The guilt was written all over his face, confirming what I already knew. "An accident? Really, Rachel? You expect me to believe that?" I sneered, my voice dripping with contempt. Nathan finally spoke, his voice weak. "Claire, I'm so sorry. It's not what you think." I laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "Not what I think. I think it's exactly what it looks like. My husband and my sister betraying me in my own home." Rachel stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. "Claire, please, you have to understand. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness." "A moment of weakness?" I echoed, my anger boiling over. "No, Rachel, this was a choice to betray your own family." Nathan reached out, attempting to touch my arm. I recoiled as if his touch burned. "Don't you dare," I hissed. "You've lost the right to touch me, to even speak to me." I could see the shame in his eyes, the realization of what he had lost dawning on him. But it was too late. The damage was done. "Get out," I said, my voice cold and steady. "Get out of my house, out of my life. I never want to see either of you again." Rachel sobbed, her cries echoing in the empty basement. "Claire, please, I'm your sister." "You were my sister," I corrected her, my voice void of any warmth. "Not anymore." With that, I turned and left them there, their pleas and apologies fading into the background. I had done it. I had exposed their betrayal, and in doing so I had reclaimed my power, my dignity. But as I closed the door behind me, a wave of sadness washed over me. My marriage, my family, the life I had built, it was all in ruins. And yet there was a strange sense of freedom in that destruction. A chance to start anew, to build a life that was truly mine. As I sat in my living room, the silence no longer felt oppressive. It felt like a blank canvas, waiting for me to paint my new beginning. The aftermath of the confrontation left a bitter taste in my mouth. As much as I yearned for justice and retribution, nothing prepared me for the hollow victory that followed. My home, once a haven of love and warmth, now felt like a barren wasteland tainted with betrayal. I was in the midst of packing Nathan's belongings when my phone rang. The caller ID flashed a number I didn't recognize. Hesitantly, I answered, "Hello? Mrs. Montgomery? This is Officer Daniels from the local police department. We've received a complaint about a domestic disturbance at your address. Is everything all right?" My heart skipped a beat. So it had come to this. Nathan or Rachel must have reached out to the authorities. I composed myself. "Yes, everything is fine now. There was a misunderstanding, but it's been resolved." "Are you sure, ma'am? We can have officers come by to ensure your safety." "No, that won't be necessary. Thank you, officer." I hung up, my mind racing. This was far from over. The scandal of our family drama was now a matter of public record. I wasn't surprised when the gossip started. Whispers at the grocery store, pointed looks from neighbors. The once friendly community had its claws out, ready to pounce on the latest piece of juicy news. But I refused to be cowed. I walked with my head held high, refusing to give in to the shame that others expected me to feel. I was the victim, but I refused to play that role in their sordid drama. The real blow came a few days later. Tyler came to visit, his face etched with worry. "Aunt Claire, I heard my mom and Nathan are spreading rumors about you, saying you locked them in the basement out of jealousy." Anger flared within me. Jealousy? They have the audacity to twist the story? Tyler nodded, his eyes filled with anger. "They're playing the victims, saying you've gone crazy with jealousy and paranoia." I laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "Let them talk. I know the truth, and so do you. Their lies will catch up to them." But as days turned into weeks, the weight of the scandal began to take its toll. Friends distanced themselves, and even some family members questioned my actions. The isolation was suffocating. a constant reminder of the price of my revenge. In a desperate bid for some semblance of normalcy, I reached out to a divorce attorney. It was time to sever all legal ties with Nathan and reclaim my life. The attorney, a sharp-witted woman named Miss Harper, listened to my story with a mix of sympathy and professional detachment. Mrs. Montgomery, while I understand your need for a quick resolution, I must warn you, this will be a messy divorce, especially with the allegations flying around. Are you prepared for that? I nodded, determination stealing my resolve. I want to move on, Miss Harper. I want to close this chapter of my life for good. As I left her office, a plan began to form in my mind. Nathan and Rachel wanted to paint me as the villain? Fine. I would give them a performance they'd never forget. I would emerge from this scandal not as a broken, scorned wife, but as a woman reborn, stronger and more resilient than ever. The days leading up to the divorce proceedings were like navigating through a minefield. Every step I took was met with criticism and judgment from those around me. But I was resolute. I refused to let Nathan and Rachel's deceit destroy me. The day of the first hearing arrived. Dressed in my best suit, I walked into the courtroom, my head held high. Nathan was already there, looking haggard and remorseful. Rachel wasn't present, but her absence did nothing to quell the sense of betrayal that simmered within me. Mrs. Montgomery, my lawyer, Miss Harper, whispered as we took our seats. Remember, stay calm and collected. Let him dig his own grave. Nathan's lawyer was the first to speak, painting Nathan as a victim of my supposed irrational jealousy. Mrs. Montgomery's actions were driven by unfounded suspicions and jealousy. Locking my client in a basement is not only unlawful, but also speaks to her unstable state of mind. I felt my blood boil, but I remembered Miss Harper's words. I remained silent, letting them spin their tale. Then it was our turn. Miss Harper was methodical, her words sharp and precise. My client acted out of self-defense. The evidence of Mr. Montgomery's infidelity is clear, and Mrs. Montgomery's actions, while extreme, were a result of emotional distress caused by this betrayal. The judge listened intently, his expression unreadable. After what seemed like hours, he finally spoke. Given the circumstances, I believe a fair settlement is in order. Mrs. Montgomery will have full custody of their son, Ethan, and Mr. Montgomery will provide alimony and child support. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. Nathan's eyes met mine, filled with a mixture of anger and regret. "Claire, please," he began, but I cut him off. "There's nothing left to say, Nathan. You made your choice." As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt the weight of the past few months start to lift. But the battle wasn't over yet. The social fallout from the scandal continued to plague me. Friends I once considered close turned their backs, siding with Nathan and Rachel's twisted narrative. I found solace in Tyler, who had become a frequent visitor. He, too, was struggling with the backlash, especially from Rachel's side of the family. "They're calling you a monster," Tyler said one evening, anger lacing his voice. "But they don't know the truth. They don't know her like we do." I sighed, feeling a kinship with Tyler that went beyond family ties. "Let them talk, Tyler. We know the truth, and that's all that matters." But even with the legal battle won, a sense of unease lingered. Rachel was still out there, spinning her web of lies, and I knew she wouldn't go down without a fight. I needed to be vigilant, ready for whatever she had planned. As I lay in bed that night, I realized that this was far from over. The divorce was just the first step in reclaiming my life. But to truly move on, I needed to face Rachel and put an end to her manipulative games once and for all. The final chapter of my marital saga began on a crisp autumn morning. The leaves had turned a fiery orange, mirroring the burning resolve within me to confront Rachel and end this once and for all. I had arranged to meet her at a local cafe, a neutral ground where we could talk without the shadows of the past looming over us. As I waited, my mind raced with the possible outcomes of this confrontation. Rachel arrived, her demeanor a mixture of defiance and nervousness. "So you wanted to see me?" she began, her voice laced with a feigned casualness. I looked her straight in the eyes, my gaze steady. "Yes, Rachel, it's time we put an end to this," she scoffed. "Put an end? Claire, you've ruined everything. Your paranoia, your crazy accusations." I felt a surge of anger but quickly quelled it. "No, Rachel, you ruined everything. Your selfishness, your betrayal. You destroyed our family for your own desires." Rachel's facade cracked, her eyes flashing with anger. You think you're so perfect, don't you? Always playing the victim. But you're not innocent in all this. You pushed Nathan away, and I was there for him. I shook my head in disbelief. You call sleeping with my husband being there for him? You're delusional, Rachel. The conversation escalated, each word we exchanged sharper than the last. But as the argument wore on, I felt a strange sense of detachment. This was no longer about winning an argument or proving a point. This was about closure. Finally, I leaned back, my decision clear in my mind. You know what, Rachel? I'm done. I'm done letting you and Nathan dictate my life. I'm moving on, and I suggest you do the same. Rachel's face twisted into a sneer. Move on? After everything you've done? Yes, move on, I affirmed. I've been granted full custody of Ethan, and Nathan is providing alimony and child support. The divorce is final. It's over, Rachel. She was visibly shaken, her bravado crumbling. You think you've won, don't you? You think you can just walk away from this? I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Yes, I'm walking away. From you, from Nathan, from this entire mess. I'm starting fresh, for Ethan and for myself. Rachel watched me, her eyes filled with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. But I didn't linger on her expression. I walked out of the cafe, leaving her in the past behind. In the weeks that followed, I found a new sense of peace. I focused on rebuilding my life, on being there for Ethan, who had been my rock through this entire ordeal. We moved to a new neighborhood, a fresh start away from the judging eyes and whispered rumors. I landed a new job, found new friends, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful about the future. The scars of the past would always be there, but they no longer defined me. As I watched Ethan play in our new backyard, laughter filling the air, I realized that this was what mattered. This was my new beginning. My chance to write a new story, one where I was no longer a victim, but a survivor, a woman reborn from the ashes of her past. And as the sun set, casting a warm glow over our new home, I knew that, despite everything, I had emerged stronger, ready to face whatever life had in store for me.